Good morning, friends, or in whichever time zone you are. Recently, our Honorable Prime Minister released a video, and as a person, as a citizen of India, as a democratic country which gives me the right to speak, the right to express and put my opinion on internet or put my opinion out in public, I just wanted to give the perspective of a person who is coming from a middle class, though I see wearing a very beautiful, good looking black shirt, but I come from a middle class family. I am 12th graduate. I am 17 years of age and running in 18. I have read the history that was taught in NCRTs and CBSE curriculum. Apart from that, I have read some individual books and written books of history, politics, geopolitics, and I have some grasp of what happens in a country. I won't say I could be the one who could really direct the country's path, but definitely I have the right to speak on some things that I feel from my own virtue and righteousness to speak for my country. So I will uh, try to speak in both Hindi and English so that the place where I need to express much more better, I can speak in Hindi and connect with the people. And the place where I want to be much more eloquent for the people all around the country, I would speak in English. So let's begin. I started following this movement by CJP, and there was whole narrative that was built by IT cell, maybe because of BJP's IT cell and different IT cells and all people getting money and all that, and that there is a funding from America just like Nepal and all that. And I have been in touch with geopolitical experts and some kind of things that I have been doing in past recent months. I know that these things can really happen in countries like Nepal and Myanmar, and things are happening between China and USA. So I didn't come in the path, but there was a possibility that was there. I always thought that India's democracy is very fundamental to it, and my whole idea of democracy shattered when I saw the day of July 20th. It was a black day for Indian democracy. And I say this with great respect for our democracy, for our constitution, for the makers of democracy, for the people who have been there to make it work and make the India better and grow and prosperous. But yet, I would opinionate on the following points. There was violence. On ground reporting showed that there was violence from the both sides for sure. But the level of violence that was put by Delhi police and RAF was much more than the perceived violence from their side. The very soul of a protest is slogans, nare. This is what defines the whole point. And मैं उस पॉइंट पे आ रहा हूँ कि आज हमारे माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने क्या कहा। इस इंसिडेंट के 11 दिन बाद प्रधानमंत्री जी इंस्टाग्राम पे अपनी चौथी इंस्टाग्राम रील डालते हैं और उसमें वो कहते हैं कि उन्हें ये बड़ा बुरा लगा या उन्हें इससे ठेस पहुंची, उन्हें ये आघात हुआ कि भारत की बेटियां जिन्हें उन्होंने 2014 से पढ़ाना शुरू किया, लेट नॉट गो इन पॉलिटिक्स, ओके, भारत की बेटियों को गाली देते हुए देखकर उन्हें अच्छा नहीं लगा। और फिर उन्होंने एक बड़े ही बेहतरीन उदाहरण से समझाया, एक एनालॉजी दी कि जिस तरह दांतों के बीच जीभ आ जाती है, उसी तरह औरतें या मर्द या फिर हमारे बच्चे या हमारी यूथ भटक गई है और उन्हें सही राह पे लाना हमारा काम है। सबसे बड़ी खूबी जो मुझे मोदी जी में लगती है वो ये है कि वो बहुत अच्छे वक्ता हैं। ही इज़ अ ग्रेट ओरेटर। He can speak and it feels like he says that with so much heart and greatness within him, and he really pours out everything. And maybe that's true, but maybe that's not true sometimes. The things that he said were 100% legitimate. I totally agree with that. I don't appreciate the very idea of curses and abuses because those are just patriarchal nature of our societies, which is being reflected in the abuses on the females and their private parts. And there is a mixture of both to somehow insult the females of the males who stand in patriarchy and feels that females are some kind of value or an asset or an object which should be valuable to them. So I totally agree. The philosophical essence of curses is just useless, and the harsh reality is we don't live in utopian world, it exists in today's world. And I totally agree with the point जो मोदी जी ने कहा, और मैं उनकी 100% बात से सहमत हूँ कि गालियाँ देना यूथ के लिए गलत हो सकता है। खासकर उन्हें गालियाँ देना यूथ के लिए गलत हो सकता है, उनके लिए ये चीज़ शायद हो, पर डेमोक्रेसी के लिए शायद ये सही बात नहीं है। Abusing a political leader doesn't challenge the power of leader. It doesn't really challenge the legitimacy of the leader if the leader is correct, if the leader is right, and if the leader is doing the right thing. He should be ignorant of the fact that people are abusing him. Because again, the way Modi ji talks, मैं भी एक उदाहरण, एक एनालॉजी देना चाहूँगा। जब किसी बच्चे को जलती हुई आग से दूर ले जाना हम चाहते हैं और वो बच्चा आग की तरफ इसलिए जा रहा है क्योंकि वो उससे प्रभावित हुआ है, उसे लगा है कि उसमें कुछ खास है, उसमें कुछ नया है, उसमें कुछ अलग है, तो एक वयस्क, एक बड़ा व्यक्ति जिसमें बुद्धि है, वो उसे अपनी तरफ खींचता है, और जैसे ही वो उसे अपनी तरफ खींचता है, वो बच्चा उससे दूर होने का प्रयास करता है और चाहता है कि वो और ज़्यादा उस चीज़ के अंदर जाए, और उसे लगने लगता है कि ये कितनी गलत बात है कि मुझे अपने निर्णय नहीं दिए जा रहे हैं और मुझे खींचा जा रहा है। तो कई बार छोटे बच्चे अनजाने में हाथ पे नाखून मार देते हैं, कई बार काट भी देते हैं, पर इससे वो वयस्क लोग, वो बड़े लोग जिनमें बुद्धि है, जिनमें इतनी क्षमता है समझने की कि वो आग उसे नुकसान पहुंचाएगी, उसके लिए नुकसानदेह होगी, उसे छोड़ नहीं देते, वो लगे रहते हैं उसे बचाने में और बचा ही लेते हैं। उसी तरह मोदी जी को इस बात से फ़र्क नहीं पड़ना चाहिए कि कोई उन्हें गाली देता है, कि कोई उनकी आलोचना करता है, कि कोई उनकी अवहेलना करता है, कोई उनके बारे में बुरी बातें कहता है, पर ये चीज़ उन्हें दिमाग में रखनी चाहिए, जो मैं समझता हूँ एज अ सिटीज़न ऑफ इंडिया, every constructive criticism on the government's policy is beneficial to PM Modi itself. PM Modi, Amit Shah, and every governmental body that sits in central legislature and lawmaking policies and everything that happens all around the country. Constructive criticisms, even from the abuses, should be taken out. And that's my whole point. It's the way narratives are built. And I found it out very interestingly. And After this, I'll talk about what I have learned in these 12 days and what was my everyday experience, and I'll share it properly as a person who feels that he is honest, at least to himself. Though I'm not honest as a person, I definitely lie, but those lies don't really affect the lives of people. I would never lie for something which can affect the lives of people. The lies that I lie are something which are beneficiary to me and have no real time consequences to other people's life. And everyone lie that way. But the lies which really cause problems and lies which can really make things worse are to be prevented, and the truth and hence has to be spoken. Not digressing from the topic. What I found about narratives is that sometimes a person comes to a point where you find both narratives to be strong in the same way. Generally, in most of the cases, almost 60 to 80% of the cases, that what happens is one narrative is definitely stronger on the other, and yet people fight. And I find it amusing that they fought on it and they fight on it. But what I want to say is that sometimes it happens that both of the sides are equally strong in their perspective, in their ideology, in their truthfulness, in their legitimacy, and it's very difficult to decide in both of these. And this is the problem where real politics could take wrong turns. Firing on students with AK 47 in Bihar protest, shooting tear gas, pellet guns, doing lathi charge, even on the people who are not really going to kill you, Delhi police. I totally condemn the act of Delhi police and RAF, and I question Home Ministry for that matter. That who gave them that order to beat the people with that way? And I'm referring here as the courtesy of me. You can go and check on Samdesh Unfiltered, and I take it as a reference. That's where the whole narrative could be seen. How people were radicalized and then they just fired and killed their ambitions. Apart from that, what Modi ji said, I am coming back to it. Overall, I understood what he is trying to make a point after 11 days. At least he spoke about Jantar Mantar, but he somehow digressed from the point what really happened at Jantar Mantar. Abuses and curse words and everything against government and anti-establishment and against big businessmen, which I also don't want to name because I know the difficulty to name them. But the very abuse to them was not that important to be talked about. I hope and I want our Honorable Prime Minister to talk about the topics which really happened that day. And in the starting of the video, I said that it was a black day for India, and I consider it truly because that's the day when democracy was killed, the right to protest was killed. And in every aspect you see, it's the problem with the management of Delhi police and RAF. They really didn't they do their job perfectly, and that should be questioned in highly organized Supreme Courts and fast track courts much more than the Need Paper League people, because that has caused real misery to our democracy. That's my opinion. I have a lot to learn, I have a lot to grow, and I am into this business now. It's the business to build our country. It's not the business to fill our stomachs and just to fill our pockets with abundant money supply and capital. It's about building a country which is unique in the whole world. And I hope that prime ministers understand this too. And I appreciate at least the motion to speak on Instagram and to try to communicate to the Gen Z. At least he understood that he has to now communicate to the Gen Zs for their votes. Not just for the votes, but for the publicity and all that. But obviously, I appreciate the act, and I would say keep it up, sir. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.